Welcome to the New Media Lab. I am your host, Rob Southgate. Today we have podcaster Imran Javed with us from the Jock and Nerd podcast. He is a little bit newer to the podcasting game, but full of really great insights and great ideas. I really hope you enjoy listening to him as much as I enjoyed speaking with him. Imran, you're up. Imran, welcome to the New Media Lab. Thank you so much for joining me.
Rob, thanks for the invite. I was very excited when you reached out. This is exciting. I'm excited.
Well, good. I'm glad you are. So actually, it's kind of ironic. Before we get into your story, the way we know each other is because Martha and I were on ProfitCast.
Yes.
And you heard it and reached out and said, hey, man, I'm in the area. Let's be friends. And here we are.
Yeah, that was great. And you invited me out to one of your live productions there. That was tons of fun to see it in person because I was just really curious how something like that's done. And then I connected with another dude who turns out lives not far from me, and he wanted to get into podcasting. And afterwards, we talked for a long time. He told me he bought a Heil PR40. He bought all this stuff. And it's just sitting there, and he's like, man, and I gave him my show, and he just was really entertained by myself, I guess. It was really weird. We even took a picture together.
Was it Terry?
Yes, it was Terry.
Yeah, you know what? Are you still in contact with him?
No, I gave him a shout out on that next show, hoping he would listen, and I haven't really heard from him.
Yeah, well, if he reaches out to you, let me know, because I did invite him to be a guest on here because I wanted to get the perspective of somebody breaking in. Why, what questions would he have?
Absolutely.
I thought that would make an interesting show. So, So Imran, tell me about you. Let's hear your background and how you ended up doing podcasting. And do you experiment in other forms of new media?
Well, so I'm a co-host of a show, the Jock and Nerd podcast at jockandnerd.com. I am the nerd. My co-host Anthony is a jock. Basically, I've been into podcasting since the beginning, except for 10 years. I remember I used to listen to Adam Curry and Dawn and Drew and this show Distorted View. And I remember having to put them on my iPod and then buying a little Griffin thing to get it through the radio. I would even burn them onto discs and take them with me. And, at that time I was all in. I kind of wanted to do a show, but it was the barrier for entry was so high. You had to write your own XML sheets, and I kind of just let it go and became a listener. So fast forward 10 years, and I'm hanging out with a coworker at work, and we're really into comics. And every Wednesday we go to the comic book store, and we have these great discussions on the way there and back about the week's TV shows and what we read. And one day, and we listen to all these geek genre podcasts. And one day he's just like, hey, we should just record these conversations. And something in me clicked. In 2 weeks, I had researched everything, bought all the gear, had a website set up. Literally 2 weeks from that day.
Yeah, right.
He had recorded our first show, and we were live on the internet. And I was like, whoa, what just happened? But it was an epiphany because I haven't done other types of new media, but what the podcast represented to me was everything that I love, from illustrating to drawing to reading comic books to audio engineering. It was all in one. This was all in one thing. It all led me to this, and it was like a light bulb went off.
Now, are you hoping to expand into other forms of new media, or is podcasting like, man, this is it? I love this.
Well, I mean, new media itself is quite a big genre, and it's growing. I do love this podcasting, and we've only been in it about just under 6 months. For the moment, I am content with just trying to perfect this and put out the best show that we can, that's entertaining and fun, and that I like to listen to. Where that leads, I don't know. I've given ourselves a 2-year plan. I said, let's see where this is. Let's do it for 2 years. See where it is. See what happens.
All right.
I know it's a long game. I'm not expecting anything overnight at all.
Well, and not just that, like you said, there are so many different avenues, and there's nothing wrong with picking one avenue and pushing on that one. On this show, we try to talk about everything: YouTube, blogging, this podcasting, and there are people that want to get their fingers in all of it. There are other people who all they want to do is focus on being a successful YouTuber, or maybe not even being successful. Maybe they just want to have a hobby and they think it's cool. nothing wrong with that either.
Nope, not at all. And that's the beauty of new media. You could use it in so many ways. Now, it's kind of daunting to, the amount of work it takes to produce our show to expand it out. But I kind of was interested in your experience if you've used Blab or what you thought of Blab, because you want to talk about new media. I think that's where it's going right now.
Yeah, Blab. I'm glad you brought that one up. That one we're probably going to be talking about on a future episode with Troy Heinrichs. He just turned me onto that.
Yeah, it's fun.
And he was saying, this is really cool. We had, you've seen us do our live show.
Yep.
And we do a show called This Week in Geek. It's 4 of us sit up there and we talk about the geek news. And we do it live in front of an audience. Well, after seeing Blab, that was something we were considering. Like, I wonder if we took 4 cameras, 4 phones, put them up there, and made the 4-picture thing for Blab right there live. That's kind of a cool, different idea.
Right?
And a fun way to play with that media. So what do I know about it? I know that it looks really cool. I know it looks fun.
Yeah.
I haven't played with it yet, but already just seeing it sparked the imagination. And I mean, that's really what this is all about.
Right. It's just pushing it. If the listener doesn't know, one of your shows, man, I showed up and you got like 3 cameras running, multiple laptops, a whole crew of teenagers helping you. It was very awesome. Now, would you throw in another thing now, like Blab? Like, again, we talked about, is it too much? Do you pick and choose? Are these platforms independent for different things, different purposes now?
Great question, man. So apparently I'm the guest on your show now. In our opinion, we're just trying to go as many avenues as we can. So like when you were saying, when we just talked about, podcasting being the focus for our company, right from the beginning, Martha and I said, we want it to be kind of all encompassing. We want to try the different things. I mean, even if somebody came to us and said, hey man, we want to start a zine, like a paper zine, going to Kinko's and printing them off, we would absolutely consider that. We would absolutely, you know what, I'm saying absolutely a lot because absolutely we'd do it. Yeah. You'd be hard pressed for us to not do that one. What's that mean? Yeah. To us, it's all part of it. It's all about creativity. Now, when you talked about the live show and having all these cameras, each one is a different audience. Each one is a different way of reaching that audience. I'll give you a great example. When we added YouTube to it, YouTube also does Google Hangout, okay? Mm-hmm. And we found that both platforms have different audiences. Each one has, X amount of listens. Right now, not a lot. Right now, you're talking for us, 50 on YouTube and maybe 75 on Google Hangout. That's not really a lot. Right. When we add Meerkat, now there's Meerkat and there's Periscope.
Yep.
Meerkat we do every week, and we average about 500 to 600 views.
Wow, that's good.
When we did Periscope, we've done it once. We didn't announce it. We just turned it on, hashtagged that it was us doing a live thing, and we had 1,200 views.
Yikes. Wow, I think that was the one I was at then, because I remember you guys... No, that wasn't it? Wow.
No, that wasn't it.
Despite all those cameras.
That wasn't there. And when you were there, Twitch wasn't on.
Oh, man.
We're back on Twitch, and Twitch is a pretty good audience for us, too.
Yeah, that's a whole nother base.
Yeah, if we cut any of them off, I feel like, we're cutting off a part of the audience.
Yeah, that's true.
So does everybody need to do all that? No. If it was you asking me now, what should I do?
Yeah.
I would tell you probably get Periscope and get so you understand it and use that.
Work the Periscope. Yeah. And I've thought about that. And with this Blab thing, it's been giving me so many ideas of different ways to do a podcast. Yes. And earlier you mentioned creativity. This is ideally what draws me to podcasts, because I am drawn to any medium of creative expression, man. This is all the same thing, whether you're drawing or writing or making movies or shooting photos or making music. It's all in just an effort to produce some creative content out there and give to the world and, spread the conversation.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And there's no limit to it either. That's what's so great about it. Before there used to be, you mentioned a barrier to entry. To get into other forms of media, there was a very large barrier to entry.
Yeah.
You had to get past the gatekeepers, and there was lots of money involved. I mean, here we're talking about Blab. You got a cell phone?
Yeah.
You're on. You're live. I know people that actually have done whole podcasts from their phone.
Absolutely. We just talked to a couple episodes ago. This guy is a writer for Spider-Man in the 90s, Todd DeZago, and he lives out in the boonies. He lives in the forest. And so he drove his car closer to town, and he sat in his car for 3 hours and just BS'd with us about Spider-Man and geek stuff and the supernatural. And it was amazing because it sounded great. He just had the Apple. I was like, dude, just put on the Apple earbuds. That mic is actually very good. It'll sound great. And the audio was great through his iPhone. Like I called his phone from my computer. It was lots of fun.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. It is an open world right now. And that's one of the reasons we're doing this show. We want to introduce people to it. We want to tell them how to be successful at it. I mean, we're figuring it out. And that's the thing. I think the people that claim to know, they may know something, but really we're all just figuring it out.
Rob, I love that you're doing this show. Here's why. You have this incredible geek network, and I've been obsessed with listening to podcasts about podcasting, which is great. The problem is a lot of these really focus on the sort of the crappy entrepreneur interview, carbon copy business, make some money, blah, blah, blah. And so I've learned stuff and I've been able to apply certain things to like genre podcasting, but I wanted to make my own show and I still may. I want a podcast about geek podcasting specifically, because there are certain tricks and tips and things you got to tweak when you just like talking about stuff that you're into, but still want it to be compelling and entertaining and maybe a little bit educational, which is what we try to do at the Jock and Nerd podcast.
That's awesome. And nice plug you got thrown in there too.
You got to do that. I am not stupid.
So okay, let's talk about a couple of different things here. When I reached out to you originally, one of the things I wanted to talk about, and it was actually kind of what organically happened. I figured you'd ask me questions about doing it live.
Yep.
But you've gone into this a little bit. So before we jump into the other things that I want to talk about, I just need, 3, 4, 5 minutes about the live thing.
Yeah.
You've done some live events. What's your experience with this?
Well, we did one. It was a little bit early on. We may not have had the listenership required. And it was at a comic book store. So it wasn't broadcast live, but we went out into the public and we had a big banner and nobody showed up. Okay. Luckily, though, there was an independent comic book company there. They were shooting a video for their Kickstarter that were friends of the guy who works at the comic book store, and they hung out and we had an awesome show with them. And we talked about the creative process and what it takes to start a comic book and how you got to stick with it. So that show was saved by just a stroke of coincidence. But the live thing to me, I mean, again, I'd have to throw it back to you. My question to you is, what is the major benefit do you see, in addition to just recording a file and putting it out there?
It's multi-layered. One is it gives you very different content. When you perform live, when you're doing this live, it is a very different animal. And frankly, when we started, I move quickly in my head.
Yeah.
And we, the first night we're doing it, halfway through the show, we hardly had anybody there. And I even said from the microphone up at we'll call it a stage, but it's not really a stage, but up from the stage, I said, I don't know if this is working. I don't know if we're going to do this again. And Martha goes, first of all, you're in the middle of a show. What are you doing? Second of all, give it time. We haven't even figured this out yet.
Yeah.
And she was right. The live thing, there's multi things here. Number one, it does give you a different type of content. It teaches you to be a different type of podcaster and entertainer.
Yeah.
We did a 12-hour podcast marathon.
Oh,
And during this thing, it was something we put on as a way to raise funds for a kid that has stage 4 brain cancer. And during the show, there was a point when, we had 20 minutes. Something ended early. We didn't have anything to fill. And we just looked at each other, and Chris from the Blue Box Cafe, it was Martha, Chris, and I, we looked at each other and went, let's do a show. Yeah. We just grabbed the microphones and we did one of our shows, Binge-Worthy. And the people that were there, other podcasters said, how did you possibly do that? Well, because we're used to it.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what the live thing does for you, man.
The more I hear you talk about it, I suddenly realize that I like that you said performer, like, because you have to be a performer, but my mind goes at a mile a minute. I also have no problem filling time, and I would imagine doing it live really helps you work on your vocal crutches and get it
totally.
You're forced to work within this time frame. And when we record a show, I tell the guests, I tell my co-hosts we always act like it's live because I love that energy. And
and do it live, and it'll force it even more.
Right. And it kind of forces you to work everything out even quicker. I don't know, man. You were really talking me into trying this.
Well, you know what? I know where you can come out and try it.
Yeah, that's a good point.
There's an open seat for you.
Little Doctor Who style cafe in Elgin, Illinois, listener.
Yes. So, okay. So that's one thing. The other thing that it does for you is it gives you an avenue to potentially make money. And as we all know, making money in podcasting, extremely difficult.
Okay, yeah, now I'm interested.
But when you're doing performances like this, now it allows an opportunity. You can try to get sponsors. You can maybe take donations, or you can charge at the door. Comedians do it all the time.
Sure,
comedians do a thing where they'll do some free shows at a club for a while, and then they'll book a theater and they'll start charging, but they've built up a little audience. Well, we've had a year of doing this. If we decided, hey, let's get a little theater and we'll charge $5 a head, we would have a certain level of audience that would follow us. So it does offer potential.
Wow, I never thought about it that way. You're right. You could literally take the show into like a legit performing space and charge a little cover. Are you guys monetizing it all? What's your model? Is that what you guys are doing?
For that?
Yeah, for the whole live shows.
We just take donations there.
Oh, okay.
And we've got a business model for it where we say, you know what, we get a lot out of it, and we give a lot there. And we figure, you know what, even if the big theater down the street said, okay, you're going to get $1,000 a night, we'd say, great, we're still going to do our live show just as much.
Yeah,
we're just going to add the $1,000 a night show.
Right.
Because there's something that happens when you give it away and when you just are up there doing it. And you talked about having an audience where nobody was there.
Yeah.
We've had that.
Yeah.
We've had it. But you know what? At the end of the day, we still needed content.
Yeah.
So we did our thing. Okay. So there's my advice on live shows for now. This show, we can definitely get into it more in the future. And Imran, you certainly are welcome to be a guest in the future, because I have a feeling we got a lot to talk about.
Right on. Yes, we do, my friend.
So podcasting. Let's go back to that, since that is your focus and you're 6 months into it.
Yes.
First of all, do you have a strategy? Do you have a strategy for how you put your podcast into the world? Do you have a strategy for how you promote your podcasts? Did I say a dirty word?
No, I'm trying to think. Strategy meaning there are certain nothing forethought out,
So like when you post your shows, do you have a time frame? Do you say every Wednesday we put them on 5 a.m. This is when it drops? Actually, or is it just kind of when it happens?
Well, I've kind of it's been at least once a week, but we've kind of been settled into a Monday, Wednesday schedule, and I'll usually just schedule it to go up at like 12 a.m. Monday, and then I have 3 tweets scheduled for the day. One really early in the morning, 3 a.m. The reason for this is we are associated with a website in the UK. We have a lot of UK listeners that other podcasts that are from the UK listen to us. So I like to get them. So like at 3 a.m, it's like when they're getting up. Then I will schedule another tweet for US morning and US evening. And in the middle, I schedule a Facebook post for lunchtime US time. And some of those also go to Google Plus, but let's face it, nobody uses Google Plus, so I don't know.
Now, does this just happen on the day it drops, or do you do this strategy throughout the week?
Well, this is right now it's on the day it drops. What I've had, it's hard to find time to schedule this, because when I've had time, what I've done, and it's worked really well, is I will go schedule a bunch of kind of like geek news articles, stuff that we've talked about, and mix in our older archive shows that are a little evergreen and things that have been coming up, and spread that out throughout the week, different times of the day. Ideally, I'd love to do that every week. Sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't.
I get you. When we have 80 some shows,
and
I do a lot of that. I try to do it across the board as much as I can. It's hard with one show.
Yeah.
And doing it across 80, I feel your pain, man. I just go like, oh my gosh, how is this going to happen? Now, are there tools that you prefer? So you're talking about tweeting. Are there tools you prefer with Twitter?
I've been using Hootsuite for a while, just because I kind of had started using it for work, and I kind of just started paying for it. And it's great because you can schedule I believe you can schedule to Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, Pinterest, Google Plus, and you can also see all your streams in multiple columns. All these things are kind of the same. It's a tweet deck. It's exactly the same thing. I heard a lot of people use Buffer, but you can also schedule post in the Hootsuite, and then it has like a suggested content little button. You put in a couple of keywords, and it pulls up a bunch of stories. It automatically schedules them, and if you like them, you just click, you tick the box, and you go schedule all these. Of course, I try to mix in a little bit of our personality in the tweet, so that's not just like the headline of the story. But Hootsuite is it's pretty cool. That's largely what I use.
Okay, and now you mentioned TweetDeck. Have you ever used TweetDeck?
Briefly before the Hootsuite,
But Hootsuite is what you really settled on.
Yeah, that's kind of what I've just been sticking with because I've been using that.
What about other forums? You mentioned Facebook. Do you do a lot with your Facebook page, or is it really just here's the show, bam?
No,
if there's interaction to be had, you do it.
It's interesting with Facebook. I found yes, if there's interaction, we do it. It's really like audience-based, age-based. We have certain people that connect with us on the Facebook because they're like older. They're not really on the Twitter. They just like the Facebook. And then we have like a different group who are on Twitter that are not on the Facebook. So it's very interesting because, the Twitter seems to skew a lot younger now, and the Facebook seems to be a little bit more. The thing is, the people my age, my friends, were all mostly on Facebook. So it's been fun trying to figure out, like, I got to post this here because this guy, I know, is going to love the show, but he's not on Twitter. So I make a point to point this one out to him.
All right. So, okay. This is making me think about something because this is always the big debate, and it's already come up. This is, we've recorded a few of these shows already, and this same topic has come up about Facebook, Twitter, whatever, how people feel about it, how they use it.
Yeah.
I'm gonna share a story that one of our podcasters shared with me that you talk about, the geek culture and reaching out and all that for geek podcasts. This was one of those defining moments to me. What she said was she's complained about Facebook forever. Like, why would you bother with it? Why would you do anything with it? We post the show up that a new one's up and leave it. That's how she looked at it. Okay.
Yeah.
But then she said to me one time, she wrote to me and she said, I was on Facebook and I was looking up fan groups of what I was doing. So let's say she was doing a Star Wars podcast. She just looked up fan groups. She joined a bunch of fan groups.
Yeah.
And she thought, okay, well, occasionally I'll write something and try to get a little leverage there. And what got her was she was in the one fan group and she posted on there her Twitter handle and said, hey, we live tweet this show. And what she found out was out of the 600 members on there, nobody was on Twitter.
Whoa.
So she was cutting off a fan group, a huge fan group.
Yeah.
By not doing that. Now, does that mean you should take your Facebook page and put a lot of effort into it? No. Right. What it means is Facebook's a viable tool, especially for, and I don't want to say geek culture, but fan culture. If you're a foodie and you're into like doing a food blog, find other food blogs through Facebook and people that are into food. Right. You may not be able to reach them through Twitter. It goes back to what you said about the different platforms for our video stuff. You know what? We have people that use Meerkat exclusively.
Yeah.
And we have other people that are like, I would never touch Twitter to watch video. I do it all on YouTube. I don't want to cut those people off.
No.
And I want to provide something unique to them too. So like YouTube, we actually edit down one of our shows completely different than we have anywhere else. That way, if you're a YouTube person, you can go on there and you can watch This Week in Geek and you get an edited version. The other people are just getting a live stream.
Oh, that's great.
For some of the other ones, we shut off the streams. We might leave it on for another 10 minutes and talk just to the audience.
Wow, yeah. So you are kind of using each of them, giving a little bit more. But you're right, you can't cut off the audience. Now, back to the Facebook groups for a second, because I think that is a brilliant strategy. That's what we need to do more. It requires. It's not the thing is this whole thing. It's not as simple as just posting your show and walking away. Like it's
Right.
everybody does
That's
that.
not going to do anything.
It's a similar strategy as if you met someone on the street or a group of people on the street, and they're all talking about. Let's say they're talking about the Daredevil show, and you're like, "Yeah, man, that was a great. Remember this episode and this episode." And then at the end of the conversation, you maybe go, "Hey, we have a podcast where we reviewed this show. You guys might enjoy it." Now,
exactly.
You just have to take that and apply it to these Facebook groups. But man, it takes time and nurturing, and
every one of these things does.
Yeah.
But if this and see, that's where you, as the new media guy, need to define it.
Yeah.
Is this a hobby where really all you want to do is throw it out in the world, and if you get 2 listeners, you're happy? That might be very valid, and that might be the truth. We had a podcaster that had 6 listens in 1 month, and he was bursting. Yeah. He was so happy.
Yeah.
You know what? Good enough. Good enough. That's what you want. But if you want to make something more out of it, you know, we talked about, you asked me about monetizing. You know, we said this on ProfitCast when we were guests on ProfitCast. Martha and I have this philosophy that podcasting isn't really how you're going to make money. So all these things we talk about are not real. I mean, they may happen, and they happen for a few, but it's the stuff around it.
Yeah.
It's what you get around it, whether it be financial gain because you get public speaking of things or get a book deal, or whether it's the fact that you're being creative and getting fulfilled, and you don't, and it's not at work just sitting there answering a phone all day.
Yeah, no, that's why I love that show ProfitCast, because it really did make me realize that profit doesn't always mean money. And you forget this. And we clearly, I did not get into this to make money. I got into this because, and this already has happened, someone picked up a book that we recommended, a Spider-Man trade, and they were like, "Hey, thanks for turning me on to that. It was really good." And for me, that's the cha-ching moment.
Yeah, me too. I get that.
You know, that's all I want. And so
that's what I live for. Yeah.
Yeah. But of course, we all want more listeners, because I want to turn more people on to things, because I love it when that happens to me.
Well, and the more listeners get turned on, and the more listeners that are out there sharing it, and that, the more you're going to have opportunity to find other stuff too.
Yeah.
You know, it's not just about getting those numbers. It's about, like, for me, it's about finding the other cool stuff out there. There's a lot of cool stuff. If we didn't do this, I may never have known you.
Absolutely. And here's that's a great point, because here's another profit I have made in a short 6 months. I have met, it must be 20 random people from the show that I never would have met. And all 20 of them have been so awesome and interesting, and have really enriched my life to be able to communicate over this because of this show. It's wild to think about who we've talked to in our last couple of shows, and it's still going. People are like just emailing us out of the blue now to be like, "Hey, I'd love to be on your show. I heard it." And I'm like, "Wow, okay."
Yeah. Hey, come on down to the comic shop. We need guests.
Yeah.
So, okay. I've only got a couple more things, because we try to keep these tight to about a half hour. First of all, you mentioned Hootsuite. Are there any other tools of the trade that you would say, hey man, if you're getting into podcasting, get this and go?
Yes. The one thing that we bought from the first day that has saved us countless times is a little piece of software called Ophonic Leveler. I would recommend buying the desktop version. This thing, of course, you want your sound going in clean. You want your levels good. But if for some reason something's off, this thing is amazing. It pushes it levels up everyone's audio and puts it to an industry standard of loudness. So you're not going to be too loud or too quiet on kind of anywhere. And man, I kind of love this thing. I may use it too much, but it just makes me feel better after my file gets run through it. I'm like, okay, this is going to be solid. This is going to be a solid WAV file now.
Yeah, you know what? That's really good advice right there. Final thing, any other advice you would give to new podcasters or people that want to get into this?
Yeah, man. And my co-host accuses me of this every time, because everybody we get on my show, I'm like, you should have a podcast. I think everyone, and if you want to have a podcast, just start, because I think everyone has an interesting story, an interesting perspective, and there is room enough on the servers of the world to hold this audio, because some of these stories we really got to document. Some of these points of views you want to document, and it's the democratizing of our voice. So if you are hesitant, say, like Terry, I hope you're listening. I'm talking to you. You bought all that stuff. Give us a call, hook it up, just go. If you wait till it's perfect, you're never gonna have a show. You can't. That's why I love this. You start and you learn on the way, and everybody follows you on the journey, and they get to know you, and it's just so much fun. It's the most fun thing I've ever done in my life so far.
Great advice and a great way to end that. Great statement there. Imran, thank you so much for being on. I am not kidding. I definitely want to have you on again in the future. And we'll have you out at Blue Box. So
excellent, Rob. Yeah, anytime, man. I'm always
get that Jock to come out. I don't know if you can get him out there, but
we'll get him out there.
Get him out there, and we'll figure something out sometime in the next few months. And that way,
crossover podcast.
That way, your fans can come out and see Jock and Nerd live in a very cool setting. So,
I would love that. Sounds great, Rob.
All right, Imran, thank you again so much.
Thanks.
I really love Imran's enthusiasm. What a great guest and so many great ideas. I hope you took something away from this. If nothing else, share it with people that want to break into podcasting and have them heed his words. If you want a podcast, start doing it. If you'd like to contact me or Imran, you can send an email to southgatemediagroup@gmail.com. Please write in with questions, comments, ideas. We're always looking for new guests, so if you have a suggestion, let us know. You can also find me on Twitter @rsouthgate or the company @SMGPods. Until next time, keep creating.